I had to do whatever I could, man, to save my son.
This case is one of the most bizarre and gruesome cases you'll ever see, with an even stranger twist at the end.
Murder case against Josh Gowker and his son, Joshua Young.
Josh Young.
Josh Young.
Joshua Young. Joshua Young.
At that time, it was all over the news channels, the internet, and talk shows everywhere. If you're a millennial, you definitely remember this case.
When you're done talking to me, then you'll be going back to wherever you need to go, okay?
This is Joshua Young, a 15-year-old. His father, Josh Gowker, was in and out of prison during his early years. His mother, Angelina Young, was a drug addict and passed away on Easter Sunday in 2010. After her death, Joshua was placed in foster care. Because of his troubled childhood, he moved from one foster home to another. Eventually, Josh Gowker, his father, was released from prison and regained custody of his son. Amanda Zwicker was Josh Gowker's on and off girlfriend. Their relationship was a chaotic cycle. They would get high, engage in wild sex, and then become toxic, and then separate, only to repeat the cycle. Amanda, like Josh, had a son named Trey, who is close in age to Joshua Young. Unlike Joshua, Trey was a freshman at Seneca High School, known for his talents and polite demeanor. The two boys couldn't have been more different. Amanda Zwicker, her son Trey Zwicker, Josh Gowker, his son Joshua Young living under the same roof. Eventually, Amanda got pregnant. Now, if you're thinking that Josh will become a good father and they'll live happily ever after, think again. Josh Gowker is bad, a parasite to society, and he'll never change. He had an affair with his cousin. Yep, you heard that right. One day he went to his cousin's place, had sex, and accidentally called Amanda in the process. She heard everything. You don't have to be Sherlock to figure out what that noise was. Furious, Amanda decided she wanted nothing to do with Josh or the baby they had created together. So without telling him, she decided to have an abortion. There was a very dysfunctional relationship between the two stepbrothers, Amanda and Josh. Amanda and Josh continued to use drugs and live their chaotic lifestyle until May of 2011, when Trey Zwicker was found dead near Liberty High School, which was not far from his home. He was brutally beaten to death. The police did not find any murder weapon or eyewitnesses. Josh and Joshua both disappeared, and the police began a search for the missing father and son. Then they received a phone call from a woman who told them that she had been held at gunpoint and forced to drive the father and son to Alabama. Thanks to this new information, they were able to find the fleeing suspects and bring them in for questioning.
Okay, let's talk about the ride down. Why did you go to Alabama? What was the reason to pick Alabama?
We were just passing through Alabama.
Yeah, going down to Alabama, you were driving in the car, what's the conversation you all had?
Can't even remember.
I'm specifically talking about just instant Trey.
I don't even know if we talked to about Trey on the way to Alabama.
And you all talked about it because she did the same thing. She knew that your dad might be a little. She's not sure if she could trust him all the way, so she recorded some of your conversations.
I don't believe that because we didn't talk about Trey on the way to Alabama.
So why would I hear on the recording that you all were talking about, you specifically talking about, you were kicking Trey in the head?
I don't know. That didn't happen. I never have said that in my life.
You are talking about killing people a couple weeks before the murder, and Trey dies similarly. And this girl driving to Alabama, she's lying, so everybody's just lying.
That's not true at all.
So they're all just liars?
I don't know what they are. They aren't telling the truth, so it must make them liars.
So have you had a chance to think about, obviously, I mean, your life was pretty good while your dad was in prison, you gotta admit. You had a much better situation.
I mean, I love my dad more than anybody in this world, and I'd rather be with him than anybody in this world. So my life was much better with my dad.
So your life was better getting arrested in Alabama?
Being with my dad, it's all worth it.
Really? So you would rather not be in a secure home, having a secure school,
I'm with my dad,
having a decent family, having Trey as your friend, now he gets out of jail, or he gets out of prison and Amanda quits her job, he goes to jail, Trey gets murdered, I mean, all that stuff's better? That's better to you?
Of course not. I said being with my dad is better than being anywhere else.
Initially, Josh Gowker was charged with kidnapping the woman. But after they discovered that he had a previous relationship with the victim, Trey, the case fell apart and he was released. However, his son was not so lucky. Prosecutors believed that Joshua Young was the one who killed Trey, and they were working on building a case against him to try him as an adult.
Okay, going back to the forensic stuff. some people said that your dad, and I have phone records to verify it, said that your dad talked to somebody, and I'm not going to tell you who, at about 9:37 on that Tuesday night y'all had the cookout. And he said that he was with you, and your dad said that he was with Trey, and y'all were all smoking weed. I'm not worried about it if you are, because I ain't the police, I don't care about that. I'm just got to tell you what the story is so you know what I'm talking about. And this was at 9:37. And the toxicology results for Trey after the autopsy was he had marijuana in his urine, but not in his blood. Which means it was in the system just quickly enough to get in his urine before he was killed.
No, he smokes weed just as much as anybody else. If he has weed in his system, it's in his blood.
It's not in his blood. I'm telling you,
it's an everyday thing.
It's in his urine only. It did not show up in his blood.
Well, he was at his dad's previously before that on the ground.
So if your dad is saying he's with you and Trey smoking weed at 9:37.
I don't believe he said that.
Okay, well he did. At 9:37, and I plus have phone records to verify the person's story that told me this. And so at 9:37, he's saying he's with you and Trey smoking weed. And then Trey didn't have enough weed in his system to get into his blood, which means he was murdered pretty fast after that phone call.
As they investigated further, they realized that Josh Gooker could very well have played a part in the crime. So he was arrested and charged with crimes associated with the murder, but not the murder itself.
I mean, but you see how all the information I'm getting from a lot of different people, from phone records, from autopsy reports.
I can tell you, I've never once talked about killing anybody, kicking Trey in the head. Me, Trey, and my dad were not smoking weed at 9:37. That's all false.
Up to this point, all evidence is circumstantial, and witnesses only claim Joshua Young admitted to killing Trey without actually seeing the crime. The detective is creating a scenario based on the evidence and tells Joshua he has a voice recording, though he is vague about it. The goal is to make Joshua believe he's been caught and prompt a confession.
If I had your job, I'd be doing the same thing, and I understand why you're doing it, but I had nothing to do with it, and I'm pretty sure my dad doesn't either.
Joshua continues to call the detective's bluff and does a great job denying the accusations. The detective becomes very frustrated and increasingly angry.
I mean, you want to find the person responsible for this, right?
Well, of course. What kind of question is that? Yeah, I do.
What's the question I'm asking?
As much of anybody else, yes.
So your honesty is important in this investigation.
I understand that, and I've told you I have nothing to do with it. Neither does my dad. That's why are you harassing us and the close family instead of really trying to figure out? I mean, you've been harassing my dad, so is everybody else.
How about harass your dad? Your dad calls me like 20 times a day.
I mean,
so, wait. You're going to sit there with your hat cocked sideways, with your red that your dad likes to wear and all that stuff, and your red shorts hanging down, your underwear sticking out. But you're going to tell me things that you have no idea about.
I just don't.
I have not harassed your dad.
I feel
your
like
dad called me 10 times a day. Your dad's called me twice since he's been locked up in Alabama. He's called me twice, so I'm harassing your dad. So you're just you can sit there and say stuff that you don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I feel
who
like
else have I interviewed in this case?
I have no idea.
So then you don't know who else I've interviewed in this case. You don't know who I've interviewed in this case.
I'm talking about me and my father.
Right, but you said I need to be doing stuff to find out who really did it. But you don't know what I did.
Instead of interviewing me,
so to sit there and just run your mouth is pretty inappropriate.
Well, I'm sorry, Trey.
Oh, this boy is a phenomenon. If he were on the right track, he would be very successful. Now the drama begins. As both father and son awaited trial, Josh suddenly decided he wanted to save his son, and he confessed everything.
I just wanted to say I didn't help anybody kill Trey.
Okay, there'll be an opportunity for you to make a speech to the court.
And I killed him for stealing from me and for keeping on stealing shit. It just felt right at the time, but that wasn't why I did it. I mean, it's not like I wanted Trey to die, or if I could do it over, I'd kill him again. None of that. You know, I mean, his mother killed a couple of mine, and it just felt right. I mean, I know it sounds monstrous and all that shit, but it's not. If we was in the Old Testament, it'd be the same thing.
Listen carefully to know how it happened.
So when Trey came downstairs, he asked you for a cigarette.
Yeah, he did.
And that he pulled your lighter out of his pocket.
Yeah.
And that made you mad.
I didn't say nothing. I didn't want to argue.
But it upset you.
Yeah.
And then you went into the kitchen to get the plate of food that Amanda had put up for you. Right?
Yep.
and that you found out that he had eaten it.
Yeah.
So you got mad. You decided to scare him, right?
Yep.
And you offered Trey a blunt.
I didn't offer him shit. I just smoked with him. Asked me if he wanted to smoke.
And then ultimately you went down to the spot, right? What's the spot?
This spot we've all been smoking weed at since we was kids. How they do it.
And that you all, when you got down to the spot, you all did share a blunt that Trey smoked with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that while you were down there smoking, Trey picked up a metal pipe. He was beating the tree with it. You told Trey, next time you steal from me, I'm going to treat you like a man.
Yeah.
And then Trey said something about, well, then you'll have a problem with his dad. With
No,
Terry.
he said, then you and my dad will have a problem, yeah.
Okay. And you said you hit him and he went down.
Yep.
And when he went down, the metal bar was still in his hand. So you punched him to knock him down?
Yeah.
Is that how you knocked him down? Okay. And then the bar was still in his hand, but you stepped on his hand and took the bar out.
Yep.
And then you hit him, and before you knew it, it was over.
He would be convicted of the crime and receive life in prison. Now it is clear that his son did not commit the murder, but it is not clear whether he is involved in it or not. Joshua would be charged with conspiracy to commit murder and would take it to trial.
Verdict form number 1, murder. We, the jury, find the defendant Joshua Young not guilty under instruction number 1. Verdict form number 2, tampering with physical evidence. We, the jury, find the defendant Joshua Young not guilty under instruction number 2.
Joshua Young would be released and sent back to foster care, but would soon run away. Not long after, he would be charged with 2 different assault charges, arrested, and put back in jail. In an unforeseen twist, Josh Gauker would claim that he did not commit the murder and that it was actually his son. He claims he pleaded guilty to protect his son from a life in prison.
My attorney, Mark Hall, knew what I was doing, knew that I was going to come in here and lie and take the blame for my son, and not only allowed me to do it, but coached me along the way. Even in here, he told me before we walked in here to keep my answers short.
You know, it's kind of interesting that I asked you the question during the plea hearing that, was it your plan to, at a later date, try and set aside your guilty plea? Remember that?
Yes, sir, and that wasn't a lie. I mean, I've admitted I've lied throughout the whole thing, but I thought, even though at that moment Josh was still charged with this, that as soon as that went everywhere, that I said I did it, you accepted my guilty plea, I thought they would dismiss it. And then I would...
That was all part of your master plan.
Well, I mean, I had to do whatever I could, man, to save my son. He's 15 years old, facing life in prison, you know? He's a kid. He was a kid.
The court would deny Josh Gauker's change of plea. Years would go by, and Joshua Young would continue to get into trouble. He was charged with multiple felonies, including assault and gun possession, and was arrested and sent to prison.
Young is charged with assault. Police say he attacked his live-in girlfriend in their Okolona apartment in April. The judge sentenced Young to 60 days in jail.
While in prison, Joshua wrote a letter confessing to the crime. He claimed that he killed Trey all by himself without his father's help. On the night of the crime, he invited Trey to smoke marijuana behind the school. While they were there, Joshua claimed he took Trey's life with a baseball bat. He admitted that he didn't like Trey, who had a big mouth with nothing to back it up.
For one, I just didn't like him. He had a big mouth with no actions to back it up.
And that Trey had informed on him once when they were pulled over by the police.
You know, he told on me one night when we got pulled over by the police, and I had some weed on me, and he told on me about that.
Young's 4-page letter mentions the appearance on the Dr. Phil show.
I just wanted to get it started about where we were, so I said, "Did you kill Trey?" He said, "No, I did not. That you did. That you killed Trey."
If that's what makes me look guilty, I'm sorry, because I'm not guilty.
Young writes, "Well, I guess even a psychology degree can't teach you common sense because I played my role and fooled him easily." The Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution states that a person cannot be charged twice for the same crime. This means that even with Joshua's written confession, they could not charge him again for the crime. He would be released from prison after serving his sentence and would remain on federal supervisory release, a short period of supervision after a prisoner has been released. Theoretically, both father and son should now be free.
I'm not hoping that he might be released because of his letter. I'm hoping that he's released because justice is served and he's proven innocent, which is the truth.
In 2021, Joshua violated his federal supervisory release and was arrested again, facing 63 months of prison time.
Young forced his passenger to eat his narcotics at gunpoint. They also found meth in the floorboard and a gun under the passenger seat. Police say the car Young was driving was also stolen from Mayfield, Kentucky.
His father, Josh Gooker, remains in prison as he serves out his sentence.
Were you a good father?
Probably not by society standards. I mean, to him, I'm probably Father of the Year, you know, but to the normal people, probably not. It is, by far, the most decent, realest thing I've ever done.
In the end, we are left wondering who committed the murder, or if it was both father and son. Does Joshua continue to commit these crimes because he feels guilty about his father being convicted of the murder? Both Josh Gooker and Joshua Young had reasons to commit the crime. Joshua did not get along with Trey, who was an honor student, while Joshua continued to get into trouble. Josh Gooker had reasons to get back at Amanda for taking away his unborn child, so he could very well have committed the crime. The final possibility is that they both did it together. Perhaps Joshua wanted to make his ex-con father proud and took Trey's life to achieve that. We may never know exactly what happened that night, and for now, both father and son remain behind bars.